a sinister and terrifying haunted house movie that got warped into a lighthearted horror comedy. A fan-favorite low-budget cult film that sparked a franchise. Hello and welcome to Not Now in Theaters. I'm Will Turntail, and this is my look back at House. House has a plot like Poltergeist, but a vibe closer to Pee-wee's Playhouse. But all the joking was an evolution. The film's original plan wasn't gunning for laughs. The original story was penned by Fred Dekker. Inspired by the 1983 Twilight Zone movie, Dekker and his creative pals, Ethan Wiley, Steve Miner, and Shane Black, planned their own anthology movie. But the group's ambitious project never got off the ground. Still, Dekker completed the story. He brought it to Steve Miner, but as Dekker was busy working on Godzilla 1985, Wiley picked up the story and decided to adapt it. Dekker's original concept is said to be straight horror, dark, and terrifying. But for whatever reason, Wiley shook all that loose and lightened everything up into comedy. The only true horror now was Fred Dekker's when he discovered what Wiley had done to his script. But don't feel too bad for Dekker. The story he spawned went on to become House, distributed by New World Pictures. Reports vary, but IMDb's trivia page for the film says that Sean S. Cunningham declares the film opened at number 1, though IMDb's numbers claim Pretty in Pink bested it by $150,000. But the box office position is not what matters here, right? House's budget was a meager $3 to $3.5 million, but the film would go on to pull in an impressive $22.1 million. But the critical picture has always been a fixer-upper. Janet Maslin and Variety magazine were quite critical of the film. Maslin noted, "Scares are not its strong suit, but it has a trim, bright look and better performances than might be expected." And Variety's critic wrote, "Though much of this nonsense is played tongue-in-cheek, an audience can hardly be expected to swallow the screenplay's arbitrary approach to Cobb's character." Ouch. You just wonder if House was the 5th film these critics had to see that day or something? And there's never been that cult classic style reappraisal. You can find House at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes at time of writing. Still, I think critics misunderstood the movie. When I go to the opinion place that matters most to me, film fans on Reddit threads, you'll find plenty of House's fans. One of my favorite YouTubers, Minty of Minty Comedic Arts, describes House as one of his favorite comfort watches. So let's cut through the sour opinions of critics and the hype of film fans. Is House a good movie?
This is a house where no one should live.
Yeah, I don't know what that screaming is going on there in the trailer piece that I just played for you, because there's definitely no screaming like that in House that I'm aware of. Anyway, the plot of House. Main character Roger Cobb's world reminds me of a nicely arranged Cobb salad. He's got his career as a famous horror writer. He's married to Sandy Sinclair, a successful actress, and he has his sweet young son, Jimmy. But one tragedy knocks over the meal of his life, and it falls to crumbly bits. When Roger and family visit Aunt Elizabeth Hooper's house, Jimmy mysteriously disappears from the swimming pool. The loss of their son disintegrates Roger and Sandy's marriage. And Roger's career begins to falter. It's been a year since his last manuscript, and his publisher wants a new piece. But Roger, traumatized, can't get to work on his next project, his Vietnam War memoir. Soon, Aunt Elizabeth dies by suicide. Roger, looking for a quiet place to concentrate on writing, moves into her house. As Roger begins to see hints of the supernatural around the mansion, he can't tell if he's going crazy or unraveling the mystery of his son's disappearance. Battles with ghouls and visions await. And to walk you through the cast of House, we have William Katt playing Roger Cobb, Kay Lenz as his wife Sandy Sinclair, Eric Silver and Mark Silver as his young son Jimmy. Aunt Elizabeth Hooper is played by Susan French. And you can read the rest of the main cast here in the transcript, which includes people like George Wendt and Richard Moll. So what's good in House? Well, the first piece is Portals, Monsters, and Mysteries, which adds 6 points. House is like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but with a definitive direction. Witches, monsters from the closets, little witches, animated objects, pathways and portals, visions. It sounds like something out of Jodorowsky. Just what zany portal Roger will step through next, what object will animate itself to kill him, it's so fun and unexpected. The film is full of entertaining sequences of Roger trying to dodge sharp flying tools, witches that won't stay dead, or figure out how to stop the closet monsters. And I think these sequences are the film's real gift. They're inventive, well-crafted, and everything you want in a film. Not a true jump scare in sight. And as weird as House is, it walks an excellent line with explaining some reveals while also just allowing the evil house explanation to stand for most of the wackiness. Some films get consumed by the need to perfectly justify everything, tripping over their feet, so to speak. House mostly lets it roll, and it works. Next up, it is Motoring Forward, which adds 2 points. House follows the #1 film rule: always be entertaining. The movie is corny to start, but it does a lot of story building in the pivotal opening 20 minutes. Aunt Elizabeth hangs herself, we get the exposition that she's not crazy, igniting a flicker of mystery, and Roger can't tell his Vietnam story. There are many setup dominoes to knock down later. And when you roll in the disappearing son, we, the audience, suspect the spooky house will have something to do with it. And now for Silly Over Scary, which adds 3 points. House is more mischievous than scary. As soon as I saw the giant blue marlin on the wall, I was hoping it would come to life. And Roger smacking up a big, dead, flopping fish was worth sitting through a few commercials on Tubi to stream this. Roger's fish whacking so reminded me of my favorite part of Evil Dead 2. It's that scene where Ash is laughing with the moose on the wall and squatting up and down with the lamp rising up and down, all of it in sync. If you stripped all the blood and gore out of Evil Dead 2, you'd be close to the tone of House. Roger is scared and unraveling, but his struggle is funny, and it's great. Next up, we have Puppets and Props, adding 4 points. Okay, what I think is a rear projection effect near the finale isn't the best. They can't edit away from some of the clown faces on the Beast Witch things fast enough. They're not expressive at all and look like cheap masks from a Halloween store. Like a shit Halloween store. And if you use the links here in the transcript or go down to the bottom in the links in this episode section, you can see what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, they have to cut away from those pretty quickly. But largely, okay, the puppets and costumes all work well. The closet monster has to be the pick of the bunch, what with its impressive size and almost Lovecraftian nature, with stringy bits of old spiderwebs or whatnot. You could also criticize the lack of continuity among the creatures and the absence of an overall theme or design. The witch woman is fat and gross, the little kid beasts are smiley, and the closet monster is, well, the sinewy, hideous thing. But in a movie like this, it doesn't completely matter. And I dig the purple blood. It lets us know that we have more fun to play for over a gruesome time. So what did I think could have been better about House? Well, first up, it is Stranger, Watch My Kids, which takes away 2 points. Roger's hot neighbor, Tanya, is a useful character in the scene where Roger is burying all the severed parts, and a monster hand is trying to grope her while Roger tries to continue the conversation while secretly fighting it off. But the sequence where Tanya shows up unannounced with her son and ropes Roger into babysitting him feels like a way to pad the runtime. Maybe Roger's struggle to keep the kids safe for the evening makes some people laugh, but it doesn't advance the plot or give us more insight into the character. And the most improbable part isn't the witches, but how Tanya trusts Roger even though she doesn't know him at all. Though maybe parenting has changed since the 1980s, and we're just too soft now. And now for fandoms and randoms, which takes away 0 points. No points off as I didn't actually dislike this, but I have to say I would love to know what Roger's doing in one scene wearing a deep V-neck sweater without a shirt under it. Huh. And you can see a picture of that too if you click the link. Was this a studio note to add some sex appeal? Very weird. And I do think it's shitty how, in the beginning, Roger makes a comment to his agent that sounds like he looks down on his fans. I mean, come on, guy. And Roger is quite straight-edged for a horror writer. If you're going to depict a horror writer, I would think they were a lot more edgy than this. At least my stereotype of them. But again, this is no points off, just my observations. And then there's that keep that monster to yourself, which also has no deductions. No points off again, which I guess is getting repetitive here, but it's also odd that Roger tells nobody the true nature of the mansion. I guess he was trying to keep the experience of the house to himself, believing nobody would believe him, or that he's a combat vet who has gone crazy. But if you want to get all lit major about it, I saw a parallel of him suppressing the house's insanity as him unable to deal with his feelings of guilt from Vietnam. And continuing with this no points off thing just one more time, we have nice and neat, as in a question. It takes away 0 points. But there are some major spoiler alerts here, so if you don't want to hear them, just use the chapter skip. So while the house itself is left a bit vague, what with its origins or why, the ending wraps everything up neatly. And I had mixed feelings about this. IMDb says the film originally ended with an unrelated monster in the pool that needed to be defeated to rescue the boy. But Steve Miner wondered if the missing boy could be tied to the Vietnam subplot. Roger originally dropped from the rope into the water, found his boy fighting a monster underwater, and then fought to rescue him before surfacing in the pool. Wiley agreed with Miner's point and wrote a new ending that works wonderfully in bringing it all together. Them rising from the pool was the original end, but they added the arrival of a skeletal Big Ben to wrap it all up neatly. Yeah, I like Big Ben quite a bit. It made it seem like the house was a bit of a Freddy Krueger, preying on your fears. But for Big Ben to have been behind this the whole time is a little too sappy. I'm not afraid of you anymore, you have no power over me. Type of stuff comes up in other movies, you know? So for me, it would have been more compelling if Big Ben were a villain Roger had to face, but he had to fight to save his son from the water pool first. But again, no points. This is just me giving space for some more thoughts on the movie. So House earns a total of 13 points. On my scale of let's not watch, should I watch or go watch this movie, I'm giving House my go watch blessing. House is so enjoyable. I love this movie. Just love it. I love all the silly, zany, but trippy fun to it. I love the portals, the plot, everything. This is great. Entertaining sequences are what you want in a movie, and I had a blast watching Roger try and defeat the mansion. You can't say the film is flawless. Part of my enjoyment here is that I didn't set the bar too high for execution, you know? You're gonna have to let go of some creature effects that are less than stellar, and I think a few bits in the movie, like the babysitting hijinks with the kid, didn't land for me. But the comedy first, then horror, helped paper over those cracks, right? And I hope that critical reappraisal, over 40 years overdue, is showing up soon. The Legacy of House. So what's the legacy of House? Well, the film still has a strong following, which is how I heard about it. It had been on my watch list for a while, especially since I found out Fred Dekker wrote it. It's funny to me that Dekker wrote Night of the Creeps, which nails that horror-comedy blend, and yet House was supposed to be a straight horror until his pal made it that way. House spawned a franchise, with 4 films in total. I've read plenty of good things about House 2 and will check it out, but I've heard it's not necessarily the greatest returns for parts 3 and 4. I'd reserve judgment until and when I see them, of course. IMDb's trivia page for the film points out that Kane Hodder was the stunt coordinator for the movie. He is known to horror fans for playing the iconic Jason Voorhees of Friday the 13th 4 times. And the connection doesn't end there, as director Steve Miner also directed Friday the 13th Part 2. It's also said on IMDb's trivia, like several horror films in the 1970s, 80s, and early 90s, one of the major themes of this film is the mental trauma of the Vietnam War vet that is relived and dreamt of by its protagonist. This can largely be attributed to the recognition of post-traumatic stress disorder in 1980 by the American Psychiatric Association and an increased popular understanding throughout those decades of PTSD symptoms. Examples include nightmares, flashbacks, etc., as well as an increasing number of Vietnam veterans who committed suicide as a result of their wartime experiences. Thus, in many ways, films like House reflect a change in national consciousness as war ceased being depicted as a glorious event and began to be seen as a harrowing and traumatic experience. And yeah, John Carpenter had once said horror isn't empty at all, like the reputation it can have in some circles, and always reflects the times in which it was made. And you can definitely see that here in House. And when we think of when this movie was released, would it come out in 1985? Didn't Platoon come out in 1986? I mean, there were novels all about people dealing with their problems from the Vietnam War, films like Platoon. So I think House fits right into that moment pretty well, if you think about it. The next-door neighbor, Harold, is played by George Wendt. He was well known for playing Norm on the TV show Cheers. Well, in the sequel House 2, The Second Story, John Ratzenberger, who played Norm's best friend Cliff on Cheers, shows up. So I guess there's a real Cheers thing going on for the two movies. IMDb's trivia points out that it is not Richard Moll inside the Big Ben monster. Kurt Wilmot was in there, a tall tennis pro and a friend of the filmmakers. But he had a horrible time in the role because, and I quote, with zero body fat, his bones would slam against the hard shell of the costume. Huh. I am assuming they don't literally mean zero body fat, as I think that would kill you, but I never thought of the body fat as soft padding that could meaningfully make a costume more comfortable. Lastly, the giant closet puppet is known as the War Demon, which is a great name, which I didn't realize related to the war. But it was an impressive 18 feet tall and operated by a whopping 15 people. Okay, that's all I have to say about House. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe for more wherever you're listening from. New episodes of this podcast usually come out weekly. We might get into a side reels episode next, or we might go into hyper crazy Korean action film The Villainous. It's a movie with lots of twists and turns and some pretty unhinged action. Anyhow, that's all for now, and I'll see you next episode. This podcast episode is production copyright of Overaked Media LLC, located in Sacramento, California. Reference photos linked in the transcript are copyrighted by the Internet Movie Database. This review's factual information was gathered through online sources like Wikipedia, IMDb, or interviews. Misrepresentations and errors are possible, but unintentional. Introduction music, Neon Laser Horizon by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And the exit music and additional music are also by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, also licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The names of those tracks are Voxel Revolution, Lobby Samba, Graveyard Shift, Guess Who, and Proto Funk. See you next time.